I hereby open the special board meeting via video conference for the Board of Education, Chickasha Public School District 26I-001. This meeting was properly posted in compliance with the Oklahoma Open Meeting Act 25 OS Section 301 through 314 at 12:04 p.m. Call roll, please.
McGill,
Here.
Mosley, Morris,
Here.
Allen,
Here.
Curtis,
Here.
Cliff.
Yeah, here.
All right. All right. Pledge of Allegiance. I've got one on the screen there if you need one. Okay. I pledge allegiance
To the flag
of
of the United States of America
and to the
and to the republic for which it stands,
one nation,
under God,
indivisible,
indivisible,
liberty
with
and
liberty and justice for all.
All right.
We're in the middle of
Takes us
we're in the
down.
board meeting right now. They're on the board meeting.
Rick, I didn't get any emails for public comment or anything. Have you received anything?
No, sir, I have not.
Okay, takes care of item 4. Moves us on to item 5. Mr. Zach.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you for the time today. We've got 2 action items that relate to the bond sale, and so we'll take those separately. The first item is the bids that we got on your $5,015,000 GEO bond issue. I believe that you all have a copy of those bids. Is that true?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Okay, great. So the short version is this is an incredibly low rate on the bond issue, which means a very low interest cost to your patrons, which is a good thing. So this is a product of a very low rate environment. I would love to take all the credit for this, but unfortunately I cannot. I might try to take just a little, but no, you guys got a great bid from Country Club Bank out of Kansas, who's a very active firm in Oklahoma school bond issues. And so they submitted the low rate at 0.859312%. So less than 1%. In fact, all 3 of the bids were under 1%, which is extremely low. And it was a very competitive sale. All the bids were, all bunched up. I would like to note that First National Bank and Trust out of Chickasha did submit a bid. So I always like to highlight when a bank in the area is supportive of the district, and so that was, I think, very nice to see, and it was a very competitive bid. So I did want to highlight their bid as well. So just overall, a very competitive sale, a very low rate of interest. So this will serve to keep the interest costs on the bonds at a very low rate, which is a good thing. And so for this action item, we would certainly recommend that you award the bonds to Country Club Bank at an average rate of 0.859312%. If there are any questions on the sale process, the marketplace in general, just in terms of bonds, I'm happy to answer them.
Okay. Team, any questions for Zach on that while we have him on?
I had already talked to Rick about it in depth, so mine were all cleared up.
Okay.
Zach Robinson, you might want to explain that this is all part of the continuation of the 2010 bond and how this might impact anybody's property taxes. That bond was passed so long ago, I think it'd just be good to kind of help explain what's going on today, if you could.
Sure, yeah, that's a great question. So these bonds were actually approved in April of 2010. And so the plan at that time was to issue bonds every other year. And so this is the planned series of bonds for this year from the 2010 authorization. We will continue to issue some bonds from that authorization for a few more years to complete that authorization. And so as we as we do that, we are always sensitive to the impact on taxpayers, because that's obviously very important to people, and it should be. So that's why I kind of highlight the very low interest cost as being kind of a win for your taxpayers. And so these bonds were already authorized. We're a part of an issuance plan that we will continue to carry out through 2024. So there's 2 more series left on this old authorization. So we'll issue bonds again in 2022 and in 2024. And our plan is to meet the needs of the district, the best that we can in terms of capital undertakings, equipment needs. And so, we're always looking and assessing to determine the needs that we have, because those needs do change over time, right? The needs from 10 years ago might not be the same needs as right now. And so as we look at our long-term capital plan, we're always trying to figure out the most efficient ways for us to fund the needs that we have, while always being extremely mindful of your patrons and any impact that it might have on tax bills. And so I think it's encouraging that we've got a low rate environment right now to issue bonds in, because that allows us just to be a little bit more efficient, with our bond issuance, and that more of the dollars are being spent on principal and not on interest costs. And so we'll certainly factor that in as we look toward any additional new long range or even short-term, planning to meet the needs of the district as best we can. Mr. Carlson, does that answer your question, sir?
Yeah, I guess one of the big questions we'll get from patrons is, will this give them a property tax increase, this bond sale today?
It will not. In fact, this rate is actually lower than our projections were for this sale, and again, that's because of the rate environment that we're in. It's also a product of the district and your profile, your makeup. You are an attractive issuer to the people who bid, and so that's a good thing as well. And so being able to attract bids at these low rates, under our projections, coupled with the stronger growth that we've seen in your assessed valuation, that should serve to keep the taxes in line or just under our projections.
Good deal. I appreciate the information. Thank you very much, Zach.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Zach.
All the hard work that everybody did to put that together. That was a ton of work. So all those that were in on that, thank you.
Okay, we got any other questions?
No.
Okay, I would make a motion that we accept the bond bid from Country Club Bank, Prairie Village, Kansas at 0.859312%.
I second the motion. Clift.
Who made the first motion?
Zach,
Okay, call roll, please.
McGill,
Yes.
Morris,
yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Curtis,
Yes.
Clift.
Yes.
Rick, Rochelle, is the door between your offices open? I think we're getting feedback when both of you guys talk from each other's mics. So we might try closing the door and see if that clears that up.
My door's closed.
Thank you. All right, item 6, possible consideration of vote to approve resolution providing issuance of general obligation building bonds, federal tax levy series for the independent school district, number 1, Grady County. Authorizing an election duly called and held for such purposes, prescribing form of bonds, providing for registration thereof, providing for a levy of annual tax for payment, for principal and interest on the same, approving a continuing disclosure agreement, approving the deeming final the official statement pertaining to the bonds, and fixing other details. So Zach, you want to explain to everyone what this one's, since we approved the bid before, what this one is doing here?
Yes, sir. Absolutely. And we've tried to shorten that agenda item over time, but we just can't figure out how to do it. So I
Yeah,
appreciate you
legal's
doing
legal,
that.
right? You got to put in the words you have to put
That's
in.
right. We got to have all the words in there. That's exactly right. So this is the final action item that you as a board take to issue your bonds. We've now had the sale, and so you must formally authorize their issuance. And so this is kind of a standard form that you have in your packet that is a required action item at the AG. And so we must legally authorize the issuance. And there were certain items that until today we didn't know about the bond issue. So we are going to fix those details, finalize the everything that was up until now to be determined, and we're going to set up the tax. We're going to show the form of the bond itself, and we're going to fix all the remaining outstanding items of the bond issue. This is a very similar action item that you have taken each time you issue your bonds, and so the resolution spells that out, lays out all the details of what we're doing here today, and formally authorizes the issuance. So we can now move forward to the closing of the bond issue, which is going to be July 30th. And so there's some things that have to happen, in between now and then statutorily that we'll make sure, all get accomplished. But this is your last action item as a board to authorize the issuance of the bonds.
Okay. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Team, we have any other questions for Zach on that?
Mine have been answered.
All right. Well, I entertain a motion to approve item 6 as presented.
So moved.
Second, Cliff.
Okay. Call roll, please.
McGill,
Yes.
Morris,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Curtis,
Your turn.
Carrie, you're on mute.
Yes.
Okay.
Clift,
Yes.
All right. Zach, we appreciate you, man. Thanks for all your hard work.
Yes.
Look forward to
Thank
doing
you very
it
much.
next time around.
Yep, you bet. No, have a great day. Thanks.
All right. Item 7, discussion and vote to approve or not approve instructional calendar for 2021 school year. Pam?
Okay, so we went back to the PD committee and looked at some of the options that the State Department had suggested regarding calendars. We looked at trying to move our start date up to August 5th for the students, which would have put the teachers reporting back the end of July. We did a vote with the staff regarding that, and it was overwhelmingly to keep it with the original start date by 71% of the August 20th for kids. And a lot of that being that they had already had obligations for the end of July, 1st of August, already had plans. ArtScope changed their calendar, so they're going the last 2 weeks of July, which does impact some of our students and some of our teachers who assist with ArtScope. So we are proposing, the only thing that's changing in this calendar is we want to move the April 2nd Professional Development Day up to August 13th, I'm sorry, August 14th. And that being, we need another PD day at the start of the year. Seth is going to be working with teachers from each site, working on distance learning plans, working on the platform as to if we got into a situation where we needed students to do some distance learning, or if we have students who opt to do a blended learning type platform. So all that's being done different on this calendar is moving that April 2nd PD day.
Okay. All right, team. Do we have any questions for Pam? Pam, and I guess it'd be a question for Jennifer and Rick as well. We've got double counts on all the days. Our contracts are matching the number of days. I know Robin may have counted on, or Lori, or Kara, or Christy. I a lot of times try to on the calendar because we've had that in the past, but didn't get a chance to on this one. So as long as we're all 100% certain everything matches up, that'd be my only question.
And this one, Zach, is the instructional calendar. So it does have the right number of days for students and teachers. Now, what it doesn't have is like the principal start date or the counselor start date. We'll create all of those calendars once this one is voted on and approved.
Okay.
Okay, I have a question. The
Okay.
April 2nd date is still in red on this calendar.
Mhm.
It's a holiday. It's an approved holiday for support staff, but not because it's Good Friday. It's an
Okay,
approved
that's what
holiday
I
for
didn't know.
support staff, not for certified. So we originally, support staff was going to have the day off and teachers were going to report for PD. But now everybody will have that April 2nd day off and teachers will start on the 14th.
Okay, and we have, I see 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 professional development days.
Correct. That is done by contract. Now, do note too that we did put in at the very end, and this was part of the discussion too, we do show that very last week of school as emergency days,
Mhm.
the 24th through the 28th. Should we need to make up any days, we wanted to go ahead and establish that on the calendar so parents would know potentially those could be school days should we need to make up some days.
Okay. And as same request we made last time, if you're gonna color code the calendar, could you color code something at the bottom that matches it?
We will,
Oh,
we will,
thank
when
you.
we get the final out. Yeah, Robin, I can't tell you how many times we have changed this calendar and looked at every alternative and every possibility, but yes, that will happen.
So all of the red dates are days that school is out?
That is correct.
For students.
Students, yes, and teachers, yes.
Well, yeah. When will you be putting this up on the website?
As soon as we can get the color coding finished at the bottom, Jennifer's going to
you.
help us with that.
Okay.
She'll be back next week, so I know that that's something she was going to help us with too. But I probably go ahead and send it out to the staff because we've got lots of teachers asking questions about start date. So I'll probably go ahead and
Okay.
send it to them, but not put it on the website until we get that other second piece done.
Okay, I'm getting a lot of parents even asking, so I know they're looking at that because they still are trying to schedule some family time. So as soon as we can get our little color blocks up, I know they're looking for it.
Okay, all right. We will make it a
Thank you.
priority. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
Uh-huh.
Christmas break,
Yes, ma'am.
we're out, the kids are out a long time. They
They're
get out, their last day's Thursday, the 17th, and they don't come back to school until, is it the 6th? I don't know what the yellow block is.
They come back, the kids come back on the 5th, Tuesday, the 5th. Teachers report on Monday, January 4th. They have out one extra day. We had one day in there too many based on parent-teacher conference days, and we had to come back and give another day out to students. And that one just seemed to flow without interrupting any other week or, just throwing out a day randomly. That just seemed to flow with the break.
Yeah,
So the
it's
kids are out 2 weeks and 3 days.
3
2
days.
weeks and 2 weeks and 2 days.
Yeah.
Well, the 18th,
Mhm.
It's one.
the 4th, and the 5th. So they're out 2
No,
they're-
weeks and
come on
3
the
back to
days.
school on the 5th.
Back on the
Back to
5th.
school on
They're
the
back.
5th.
Oh, okay. Back to school on the 5th. I can't figure out your yellow. All
2
right.
weeks, 2 days.
It's a different yellow than the Saturdays. But it's yellow.
Mine shows white, so I'm sorry.
It's
They're going to
yellow.
work on that color coding.
Yeah.
We are by Georgie.
Okay.
Any other questions? Kara, Christy, both good?
Yep, I'm good.
The
Good.
21st of May, the day after school is out, is going to be professional development.
That is correct. That is correct.
You got to debrief, Rob, when all that stuff fresh.
Do what?
You got to debrief while it's all fresh.
Yeah.
Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve item 7.
So move, Clift.
Second, Alan.
Okay, Ms. Rochelle, call roll, please.
McGill,
Yes.
Morse,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Curtis,
Yes.
Clift,
Yes.
All right, item 8, discussion and vote to approve or not approve renewal of liability insurance. We got Jennifer, and then I think we also have Mr. Chris has joined us earlier, so we'll be ready to go.
Don't wait for Jennifer.
No, go ahead, Chris.
Okay, all right, very good. You'll see in there OSIG, which is a primary carrier in the state of Oklahoma for public school districts. And it is a program that's been around since around 2003. And we placed Chickasha schools in there in 2004. And there's only a couple of years that Chickasha was not with OSIG. And we went back to OSIG in 2016 with the program. There have been, I pulled the loss history and your experience with OSIG. You have just over $5 million in claims over that time frame. There was a rate increase on property, and that's with, there's another program in Oklahoma. Both of them have similar rate increases of 17%. And it's all heavily property driven, which you have going on right now, and Dan can attest to, is we've got some hail claims taking place at Chickasha at this point, which I anticipate a fairly large payout at this time. So what I did was try to take a look, a way to offset some of those premium increases. And the best way of doing that is by raising the deductible on the property insurance. Because currently your deductibles are $2,500 for all perils, except for excluded. Wind and hail, which is a $10,000 wind and hail deductible. And that's per occurrence, not per building. So one storm would be $10,000, and that's a multiple day deductible. So if you have a storm come through, it backs up, it hits you again the next day, it's still the same deductible. It doesn't add on again. So I looked at 10,000, which is your current, which you see the quote there. There's also a 5,000, 25,000, which would be 5,000 for all perils like a fire, and then 25,000 for wind and hail. And then I did another one where it was a 10,000 for all perils and a $50,000 wind and hail deductible. And I did some mathematical calculations on just keeping the premiums the same, the savings the same, because if you go to a $50,000 wind and hail deductible, your savings is about $22,000 a year. Can you hear me okay? I want to make sure.
Sir.
Okay, all right. So the 22,000, but you have the higher exposure of deductible coming out of pocket. So if you net it out over 12 years, you save with a $50,000 deductible, you'd save $6,900 a year, just under $7,000. So with a $25,000 deductible, your savings is only $5,700 a year. And so I wouldn't recommend the 25, and I'm not sure if I'd recommend the 50. And that includes the 50. If we had the storm we just had was a $10,000 deductible on April the 28th. But if I applied a $50,000 deductible to it, that's where that $6,900 in savings would come from over a 12-year average. So the return of having a higher deductible and what they're offering on this year isn't really the savings that I was anticipating and seeing. I think if we really want to make a change, would be go to like a $250,000 deductible for wind and hail. And then I can go to market and buy back that deductible. And that probably has some savings in there. But the problem I can't do it right now is you have a lot of old roofs. And so those carriers, they will offer that gap coverage of the $250,000 of that first deductible. They won't see newer roofs on there. And so after this last claims adjustment, Dan can probably tell you about where we are on that. I spoke to the roofer multiple times, and there's going to be several buildings that looks like they're going to be replacing quite a few, and there's several large buildings. And so with that change, I think next year will be a little more agreeable to look at a really large deductible and buy a policy in between to take a look at it. But right now, I didn't see the savings, and Jennifer and I kind of talked about that some, but that was before I filed the most recent health claim. So that's it in a nutshell. The schedule of the buildings, they are included in there. The buildings are listed at 125%, which means if it shows 10 million on there, you really have 10 million plus another 25% add on to that building value in case there's a change in cost of construction when the overruns there may be. And the contents, as long as they're 10% of the building value, they are blanketed. So they can be within any building on the campus itself, or actually in the district, within the district.
Okay. Chris, when you were talking about the different deductible levels, specifically we were talking about like the roof and wind stuff at 50 and 25, and then ROI over 10 or 12 years. I think maybe you used 12 years.
Yeah, I used 12 years. I went back to the first wind hail claim that I had, and that's what.
Okay, I was going to say, to calculate that ROI, just using the average number of claims we've had over that period of time to get that?
What I did was I went back to every claim, so I knew how much we paid in insurance.
Mm-hmm.
And so if a claim was like $8,000, well, of the lower deductible, I just counted 2,500.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if a higher deductible, I had to count the 8,000.
Right.
And so they kind of fluctuated that way as I went through the calculations.
Okay.
Because even with the 5,000, you're only paying 5,000, but like with the 10,000, you had to pay the full 8. And there were several claims that you would have paid up to the 10,000, where the lower deductible would have covered it. I hope that makes sense.
I was looking at that. It looked like between option 1 and 2, that's like
Right here.
the difference we would save next year is like 1 hailstorm claim.
Yeah.
And the difference between 1 and 2 for a property claim would be 5. And I don't. What's our average number of property claims a year, Chris? Do you have that?
Yeah, I do have that. And I'm going. There we go. And this is prior to the most recent hail claim. So I was looking at it, and I sent an email to Jennifer, so I may read this out to you a little bit easier. Looking at the 10,000, 50,000, the premium decreased by 22,938. And I said, went and reviewed the claims that were affected by the higher deductibles. There were several other claims that were covered under the inland marine, which is separate, the lower deductible amount. But in the 12 years, I found 7 property claims. With the 2,500, 10,000 deductibles, the school would incur 32,500 in deductible. And then with the higher deductibles, you would have incurred $141,516 over the 12 years. The odd amount, it's $141,516, which is kind of a weird amount. That's because some of those claims were less than 10,000, but more than the 2,500. So as you pick up the odd amount at that point. With the premium savings, that you would have gotten your money back in about 4.76 years, or just under 5 years. Anything more than that, I would question whether you need to make that change or not. Because in Oklahoma, more likely your claim is going to be wind and hail.
Yeah.
And it's going to be your largest. It would be one of your larger claims too on the property side. We had. Because I actually had it written down. We had seven property claims affected by that. So that'd be the 7 weather-related ones over 12 years. So you're hitting one about every other year. And some were varying in size. Some have been small, like $50,000. But then we also have some that have been relatively large.
Right. Well, I mean, normally you like to go if the premium change isn't very big, you like to go, more risk averse, but with the state and the conditions, everything it is, we know our budget coming down next year's could potentially have some significant cuts. So I was looking at option 1 and 2. Like I said, that's 1 hailstorm claim, 5 property claims. It sounds like we're not going to do 5 property claims. We've only done 7 in 12 years. So to say, taking that risk of having to do 5 in 1 year, that would be the cost savings difference of that $14K between option 1 and 2. And then just be 1 roof claim though. So we'd be saving.
Option 2, is that the 5,000, 25,000? Okay.
Yeah, that's the 5, 25, 50, right? Let me pop it back up.
It is. It's 50,000 for the flood and earthquake, and that's the same for all of them.
Because that's kind of the mid grade one. The other one puts you, the savings is larger, like you said, Chris, 22, but 1 roof claim already doubles that. So it's like risk reward is not very good for 3. Like, hey, so we just kind of cheat some money out of this for next year and take a little more risk. That's why history to me mattered quite a bit. So I don't know. I was kind of looking at that with item 9 on the next one. I think we want to do CFEL, Center for Law, to get our policy done. I'm like, well, there's a cost difference. We can make it up on 1 and pay for that without those things hitting us and still do what we want to do. The only thing we're putting at risk would be an extra hail claim. So the savings would account for 1 hail claim and we'd scratch neutral. If we have a second hail claim, then that's over 15 grand.
Right.
Then that's where we might say, well, we kind of went with a little bit slightly higher risk. Case history says we can do it. But you don't always win those, right? So that's
No, I had insured, we raised our deductible to, I want to say it was 125,000. And they had never had a wind and hail claim until 3 weeks after we raised the deductible to 125,000.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, it's
That's the
Oklahoma.
one time the numbers did not work right.
Yeah.
But I had like 30 years of no claims. And it just happened.
I just have one question or a couple of questions. This one's to Chris. There's the senior citizens building, which we haven't voted on that yet.
Right.
Nutrition center's on there for $1 million. Valuation, obviously, if that goes off.
Yeah, I just need to be notified of that change, and you'll get a premium credit for that. But one thing I know, I've talked to Dan and Susan out at the transportation building, and we removed several vehicles off of there that were just on there and were not moving. They didn't run, either no motors, no transmissions, whatever. And I believe there may be a few more. I'd like to have those before June 30th, because the way the policy works, you report the vehicles that you change, that you add on or delete with me. You don't see a premium change until the next renewal date. So if I can get those changes done prior to 7/1, and you remove 3 or 4 or 5, whatever it may be, before 7/1, then there'll be less premium you'll pay then too.
Okay.
But if you tell me after 7/1, the premium doesn't come off. But you can buy buses on July 2nd, and you won't see a premium charge until next year.
Gotcha. So, Chris, do you think that savings of that stuff rolling off will be significant?
Property is your biggest premium.
Right.
The autos is relatively very, very small. So if you're dealing with some premium coverages, hang on, I'll tell you here in a second.
Well, I mean, one of them is the property one, so I'm just wondering what that would change.
Yeah, it's probably the property is about it's almost 80% of your premium. And so we have, if I can give me a second, I'll give my 10 key real quick and we can.
I mean, that's okay. I was just wondering, is it
It's
minimal?
1% of our overall property. I mean, if we sell that building, so.
Yeah,
not
it's
gonna be-
about, you got about 110
1,000.
million in property values.
Yeah.
And so you're talking about getting rid of a couple of millions, you're doing a couple of percentage points.
No? Okay. That makes a difference in,
Yeah, I mean,
premium.
yeah, if there's something on there that needs to come off, we need to get it off.
Okay.
And Rick, I was going to ask, or Dan, either one. I mean, I'm showing on here 36 buses, 29 other vehicles, 10 trailers. 15 of those are valued at zero.
Right. The policies pay actual cash value. And once you get a bus, that may be, because some of our buses are very, very old. And so and Rick and I have talked about this. I mean, some
We just
are-
need to get rid of those. Or, yeah, yeah.
And so with these buses, they only pay an actual cash value. So when they're brand new, they're on $90,000. You can be 16 years old. The only value is that motor and transmission.
Right.
And so you just got a few $1,000s in valuation there. Now you'll see some older pickups that do have a higher value on them. And that's because I know they're diesel. And diesel trucks will carry about $10,000 more in valuation than a gas one will.
And our plan
So
is
are
to
we,
move those off.
are we going to be getting with Chris and make sure he has that prior to July 1 on anything that's rolling off? That might be a Dan question.
Yes, we will be getting with Chris, and anything that we will not be using, those will all come off of the policy.
Okay, good. Okay.
Yeah.
So we might have some updates.
Right, and Susan did a great job cleaning through that list about 2.5 months ago. I mean, there was a
Awesome.
bunch of
Thank
things
you.
that got removed.
Okay.
Okay. All right, team. Any other questions? What do you want to do?
I'd like to hear Rick weigh in.
Well, out of all these three considerations, I have to agree with Chris on what he said. I will tell you, we've been working. That's why we put the surplus list on the last board meeting agenda, because we do want to try to move as much as we can off prior to July 1 in regards to vehicles. In regard to the Sales Senior Center, we'll talk about that in just a few minutes. But you have that contract in your agenda today. So we're going to have some net savings in there is our plan as we move forward and as we talked about next year. Chris and we've had this long conversation about, you can have one claim, and as he mentioned, go back 30 years and nothing happens, and then you raise your rate, and then all of a sudden, here you go. So a modest rate in our deductibles is what I would recommend. I wouldn't go for the jugular at this time, but I would do a modest rate this year.
So Chris, you saying one, or you're okay with two as well?
Myself, with the two, plugging in the new numbers, you're looking at you had prior to the most recent hail claim, and if we went to the deductible costs are $74,051, and then I added another $25,000 for the most recent April claim, which brings in $99,000 over 12 years of the deductible you would have paid in. Which averages to be about $8,300 a year in deductible. Your savings is $14,000, giving you it's a $5,700 savings a year. Mm-hmm. If you choose the $25,000 wind hail deductible. That also changes your fire deductible, your theft to $5,000 too.
So Rick, when you said moderate, Rick, do you mean just like option one, the most like no real changes, most risk averse, or you're comfortable with option two and carve out a little bit this year? Or what are you
comfortable with option two?
Okay, I like that. I think that's a reasonable amount of. I mean, it cleans up 13 grand for this year for other stuff we're probably going to need, and that's not including any other adjustments that'll get made by June 30th. That'll clear up a little bit more, hopefully.
Rick, you said you are comfortable with number two?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay.
I would be too. Yeah.
Okay.
One thing also, I'll let y'all vote. I'm sorry.
Very good. Yeah, I'd entertain a motion.
I make a motion that we go with option two with the medium deductibles.
Okay.
Second, Curtis.
Okay, go ahead, Chris, before we vote. What else? You said one other thing.
Oh, there is a resolution that's in that packet that I'll need Zach's signature and the clerk of the board signature on also.
Okay.
If that can be emailed back to me today, and then I can, if you want to mail back the original, OSIG will not bind unless they have this resolution in their hand.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Any other questions before we vote, team? Nope. All right. Call roll, please.
McGill,
Yes.
Morris,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Gertis,
Yes.
Clift.
Yes.
Thank you, Chris. You did a good job explaining this.
If you guys have any questions, you know how to reach me anytime. So we will can help out.
Thanks, Chris. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
Thank you, sir.
And Dan, I'll send you another list of what I currently show.
All right. Thank you, Chris.
All right. Talk to you guys later. Thank you.
Thanks. All right. Item 9, discussion and vote to approve or not approve a Center for Education Law proposal quote for school board policy manual review and revisions. Rick?
So as you all know, we've been working on reviewing our board policy manual, and it's a process that's taken quite a bit of time, and we really just haven't gotten to where we need to be. One of my biggest concerns is actually having a working set of policies in place for next school year. I'd like to have everything reviewed, in place, and approved, at least considered and being discussed by the board at the very least as we go into the 2020-21 school year. The process that we've engaged with OSSBA will not be complete by that time. They're a great resource. I'm not complaining here at all, but we've got to have a working set of policies that we can operate from. And so with Center for Education Law, they can do the entire process for us between now and August 1. And there is a cost. You can see that there in the contract of what it would cost. This is a little bit more than the OSSBA contract by about $2,000. But what they will do is they will start a policy writer. We will submit them every policy we have, policies that have been updated by school boards since 2012 as well, that are not sitting in the policy manual right now. And they will customize a board manual notebook for us. They will start on it tomorrow. We'll submit everything to them as much as we can this afternoon if this is approved. And then they will put everything together, and then they will come in, and this vote involves 2 meetings that they would do, one with the admin team and one with the school board, to go through the manual to answer any questions that they might have or that we might have. And making sure that every policy is in there that needs to be in there, that meets Oklahoma state law and federal statute. And then by August 1, we would have a policy manual for the board to consider. And it would be we would just look at the entire manual. That's why we worked through those 2 meetings to make sure that we've gone through each policy with legal counsel. And then on August 1, we'd have a manual for the board to consider for adopt for Chickasha Public Schools. I feel this is the most thorough process. I think it gets us our legal counsel involved. I like the idea of practicing litigators looking at our policies and knowing what's happening and giving us that advice in that direction. And so I think this would get us in the most, in my opinion, the most sound footing as we move forward in our board policy manual.
Yeah. Okay. All right, team. Any questions for Rick?
No, I've talked to them again in depth about this, and I like going this route. I feel a lot more confident in this route.
I know, I hate that we have to spend more money, but I mean, I don't know if y'all remember, but OSSBA said they were supposed to have a rough draft back last September.
Yes.
And she didn't get it to Robin, was it December or January when she finally got it to us? And it
Yes.
wasn't anything really revamped. I mean, I don't.
No changes.
And so it just, their process is real cumbersome. I don't really understand what our part is supposed to be, what their part is supposed to be. And so I think this is, and August 1, I mean, that's almost a miraculous date, all things considered.
They are literally designating a policy writer, an attorney, a staff attorney at Center for Education Law to do our manual over the next 6 weeks.
I mean, I know we don't love especially at this time, the expense either, but I think what we just did on the previous action item kind of offsets that cost, and it's an enormous amount of work. So I want to thank Kara, Robin, and then Rick coming in later, and for what everyone's already done. And it'd be different if the policy had been overhauled recently, and it hasn't. So it doesn't really matter why, but it's way
overdue.
Yeah.
Thanks, Robin. Yeah, it's way overdue. And that's really for what they're going to do at the rates people would normally charge. That's a steal for how many hours from a legal firm they're going to put in that.
And I think using Center for Law is going to be a lot better. And I kind of see maybe what's happened in the past with OSSBA and why the ball gets dropped, because, I mean, you don't know what you're supposed to do. It's just, yeah. So I think this is going to be, and we'll finally have something, which I think is so needed.
OSSBA is a great resource. I have no knocks on the organization. I think they're wonderful. I think they're really good at supporting school districts, school boards, superintendents. I just think in this particular situation, for whatever all the reasons might be, I think our best course of action moving forward is to go through legal counsel. One other thing I'd just like for you to know, with the Assemble program that was approved at the last board meeting, part of that program is we're able to put things on our website. And so we'll be going through that training in July, if I'm correct. And then once that's done, we'll be able to put that on our website. And this policy manual will link directly to our website. Anybody can go on there, type in a word, let's say, for example, enrollment. And it will pull up every single policy or regulation that has anything to do with enrollment mentioned one time. And so it just gives us another level of transparency and availability to our staff, to our community, to our patrons, that I really think will be beneficial to us in the long run.
I agree. Transparency being the key. And I think that it's our duty, Rick, to help make you successful. You need a policy manual. And we've not had one in an incredibly long time. So I think this is one of the most important things we as a board need to do, is to make sure that we get you and Seth and Pam and Jennifer a policy manual so that you guys have have regulations to abide by when people ask questions and things come up. So I make a motion to approve the Center for Education Law for the policy manual.
Second, Clift.
Okay, any other questions from anybody?
Yeah, I have one before we move forward. Isn't there an expense regardless? So this is just our choice of how to get it done?
Yeah.
That's what I thought. So
Mhm.
it's not like we're not going to have it. This is just the most expeditious way
Right.
and offers us the most protections.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And honestly, I can't tell you when the process would be complete with OSSBA at this point.
Yeah.
We've tried, we've offered, once again, not trying to be disparaging, we've offered
Right.
several different ways to have something done by the start of school, and it's just not looking favorable to be able to do that.
Yeah.
But this gives us that avenue.
And it's a separate system. There's
Yeah.
worked well when it's not as big, right? They kind of review it, make recommendations, and
Right.
it's back to you with their notes, and you make all the changes, and then send it back and make sure you got it right. And it's just we're in greater need, like Rick said. OSSBA does a great job supporting school districts and supers.
Absolutely.
Different for this thing, and that's fine. So
Yep.
okay. All right. Well, we've already got a motion in a second.
good.
Call roll, please.
McGill,
Yes.
Morse,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Gertis,
Yes.
Clift,
Yes.
All right, item 10, discussion and vote to approve or not approve memorandum of understanding with Chickasha Associated Support Employees case. Jennifer?
So this is for our vacation days. One of the things that we changed for, actually it's this current year, was we started all the vacation counts July 1. And before that, it was on their anniversary date. And we did that just because it's going to be a lot easier to manage moving forward. But that meant that some people had, their days coming in on their anniversary date. It might have been like they started, say, at the end of the year in May, where they would have gotten vacation days, and then they got another set in July. So they've got more probably this year than what would have been in a current year. And then we also have the coronavirus, where we weren't even at work for a long time. So in our policy currently, they lose any of their vacation. They can only carry over 10 days, I guess is the best way to say it. So if we kept that in place, then they would be losing a lot of their vacation. And I don't think that's really valid. And it's because of two situations, not just coronavirus, but because of a change in policy. So what I'm recommending and what the MOU is saying is that for this next year, they have that they can carry over all of their vacation and use it throughout the next year. And then it would go back into, you can only carry over 10 days for 2022.
Okay. That was one of my main questions, Jennifer, as I read the MOU, and maybe I missed the word all. I had the question, how many? It talked about the 10, the new policy, but I didn't know how many more we're going to be allowed to carry over. So basically, we're saying anything they have banked?
Yes, would carry over into this next year that they could use.
Right, we go through June 30, 21. And then I also did notice we did get the statement in there so that we're not at payroll risk, or not risk, but we don't have that
payout. Yeah.
That payout.
Right.
If they resign or anything, they just get the 10 days current policy. They don't get the full bank. So I was glad to see that in there.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
And this would apply to our, not just those in the case, this would also apply to our other 12-month employees.
Okay. I had a question there too, Jennifer. I know the MOU is with Case, and I don't want the motion to include the admin. If that's a policy change or something else, I want to keep that clean and separate. I know the MOU is specific for Case, admin's not in that. So I think the same principle applies. I assumed you gave it for context and intent in your write-up, but we can do that formally if we need to, or that's just an admin change that you guys are making, or if there's a policy that needs to be updated, we can do that separately. I want to make sure it doesn't get clouded over or mixed with the Case part.
Okay.
Jennifer,
question.
do you have any idea, like, how, have you looked at this? How many days are we talking? Is someone going to carry over 35 days? I mean, we were out an entire 9 weeks of school and they weren't at work. So they have all that 9 weeks that they were home that they now get to carry vacation over for as well. So like, how many days would you say we're talking?
That was my question.
Mine, yeah.
Well,
that's right.
I can get you that. I don't have that number on how many days. I mean, at the most, because each employee, it depends on, you know, some get only a week, some get 2 weeks. I know within our office, we're probably not talking more than 10 days additional.
But now
So people,
When you put that with what they had, then are we talking like someone could be off 4 or 5 weeks? I mean, how is that going to be broken up, or how are we going to protect the job that needs to be done and offset all the vacation time?
Well, I mean,
that's my concern as well.
Yeah.
This is for these for the support employees. They have vacation and personal / sick time, right?
Yes.
Yes.
So vacation has to be approved by your supervisor, so you can't take it unless it's approved. So it's a little different than just being able to use sick time or personal and call in and say, you didn't let me off, I'm gonna take off anyway. We're not talking about those days. So I know it may mean if people want off more, the supervisor has to manage that, but at least it requires supervisor permission and could be managed to make sure that workload is covered.
Is that correct?
And I don't.
Is that how you operate? Are you not, I mean, is it up, are you giving them the ability to decline vacation leave, or is it just a blanket approval?
No, they need to be able to decline vacation leave.
Okay.
If you have multiple people that are requesting, for example, you go back to the instructional calendar that we just approved, the 3 days off before fall break in October, we can't have an entire transportation department shut down for that reason. So this is going to have to be managed, as Zach was saying, through supervisors. So this can be staggered out throughout the entire course of the year. We're not going to shut down the admin buildings. Everyone can take vacation. That makes sense all at the same time.
And I can see the people who only have 10 days, the max they would carry over is 20 if they had all of their 10 plus last year's 10. But for people who they're on the week sale, and some of them are up to 3 and 4 weeks of vacation leave. And because they were off a lot of the summer and the fourth 9 weeks, if they're carrying 3 weeks over and they already had 10, you know, they've got a lot of vacation to take. And we're saying that we're going to cap it at the end of the year back to 10. So they're going to need to take all those 3 weeks or they can't carry it over again.
Well, and Robin, if we don't say that, then they're not here for the rest of the year. And
right.
I mean, it's the same thing. So at least we have an additional year spread out for them to take that vacation. They've earned it.
Okay.
It does say in the support contract, vacations will be taken at a time mutually agreed upon by the employee and his or her supervisor within the year immediately following date of accrual. So there is that safe.
So as long as the supervisors are watching this closely and they understand, I mean, our concerns, and we protect the district, then I guess we have to lean on them to make the appropriate decisions for their building.
Most of the people that we're talking about, I mean, they were working part of the time while we were in phase one of everything that's been happening. And even when we were shut down, we were doing the 2 days a week, 2 of the 3 days a week. We hit phase one back on May 15th, and that pretty much brought everybody back. Then the last group of people came back would have been June 1. So there was that lag time that was there. We tried to stay open as much as we could.
Yeah.
Because of everything. This has been the oddest, I think everyone could agree, since March 23rd, really March 13th, 16th. This has been the oddest 3 months ever.
Right.
Agree.
And so we're going to have little things like this. It's going to keep coming up, and
Yeah.
we're going to have to manage them and talk through them. But when Jennifer brought this to our attention, we couldn't shut down the district because everyone had all this vacation to take. We had to get people back to work just so we could start getting ready for next year, what that's going to look like.
Yep.
So,
okay.
Well,
As long
it
as
sounds
we
like
protect the
you guys
district,
have thought
that's what
through
I'm
this
concerned
well.
with.
Okay. Robin and Lori were talking at the same time, so
Oh.
I didn't get it.
I just said, as long as we protect the district, then that's most my concern.
absolutely.
Yeah, I think all of us could agree we want to do what's right for our employees and make sure they feel valued. We just, at the same time, balance that with risk
Right.
to daily health of the district. And I think they care. Our employees care about the district too. So I think we're.
Oh, definitely. They do.
And
Okay.
my comment was, it looks like you guys have thought through this well. So I think I'll make a motion to approve.
Second, Alan.
Okay. Any other questions before we vote, team? Nope. Head shakes no. All right. Call roll, please.
McGill,
Yes.
Morse,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Gertis,
Yes.
Clift,
Yes.
All right. Item 11, discussion and vote to approve or not approve the bid and sale of land and building hosting the Chickasha Nutrition Center. Rick, Dan?
So if you remember back to my very first board meeting, this was discussed and talked about, and we tabled it. And we've had time to look at the bid and other things. And, only God knew the circumstances that were going to change from January to June. Only could have known. This had been sitting off to the side. We had other fish to fry, literally, and serving kids and all this other type of stuff. They have approached us again, wanting to know if we would be interested in selling the property. They're interested in selling and closing by June 30th. This would be something that would be handled as basically a quitclaim deed, and that's listed in the contract that our legal counsel put together. This is a very standard contract that Laura Holmes worked on. So you can go through there and see all the specifics. She talks about title insurance. She kind of just takes us through the whole thing. I will tell you, unless Dan has some updated information, we do not have an actual official abstract for this property unless Dan has found something since we talked yesterday.
Nope, I have been scouring Kelly's office, looking other places for it. Have not come across that as of this time. I have been in contact with Cochrane Abstract this morning, and they told me that if we could not find the abstract, I could give them the legal description, the survey that I have, and they could build us one in a week for $800.
So apparently it goes back to how the district came in possession of the property. And there's never been an abstract as far as what we can tell, specifically about what we're talking about here. And we have been searching now. Oh my goodness, Dan's been on this at least a week, 2 weeks, just trying to find the abstract itself. So it's something that we would have to work on and make sure that there is a working abstract for us to complete this sale, should it be approved. The legal description is based off of the survey, and that's good to go in that regard. Talking about the actual price, it is the bid that they did submit back in January. It's very fair off of the valuations given to us off the property itself. They're going to have to do quite a bit of remodeling to those buildings for especially, I think it's the barracks part of the building that's going to have to need considerable renovation as well. We've been leasing this property. You guys know this for, Robin, you can probably tell me, we've been leasing this property to them for decades.
Forever.
Yeah. So this would end that part. It is the little bit over 2 acres right there on the high school land. I'm not one to always give up property. That's what I told you guys back in January. But as we've talked about, we are facing a over now $2 million shortfall for next year. And everything is on the table for us, as Lori mentioned earlier, to protect the district. So in looking at everything and talking and going through it with team and legal counsel and everything, I do recommend to sell the senior center. We can move this to them. They'll just take over what they've already been using in all essence. And then as we continue to move forward, as we enter into strategic planning, we will talk about all other remaining properties that we have in the community and what we want this to look like by getting community input, of course, to hear what they'd like to see happen with Chickasha Public Schools. This will still keep us at around 160 acres owned by the district in the community by selling this little bit of 2 acres.
Yeah, what is it total, Rick? 3 acres right there or something, and some of it's on the other side of the street. You know, it's carving out a little piece on the side.
It is a very
I believe
small
it's
piece.
2.6 acres.
I was going to say 2.6 or 2.7, but I think it's 2.6.
I have
Rick,
a question on the item 12. It says 201 North 18th, but in the insurance thing, it says 201 North 18th Street and 203 North 18th Street. So
one of those is going to be, I understand it correctly, Dan, is 203 that barracks or is 203 the cheer building?
I believe 203, I believe is the barracks.
203 says Nutrition Center is what it says on this.
201 would be the barracks then.
The property has two buildings that go with the sale, individually listed. That was in that description packet and the contract.
Mm-hmm.
201 is Senior Citizens Building and 203 is the Nutrition Center.
Mm-hmm.
So are both those being sold then?
Yes. Yeah. So in the contract, first page, first paragraph, where it talks about property description, so the seller agrees to sell and convey to buyer by quitclaim deed, and buyer agrees to purchase the real estate property described as 201 North 18th Street, Chickasha, Oklahoma, and 203 North 18th Street, Chickasha, Oklahoma. So both buildings are included in there.
Okay. Our item, on item 11, it only lists 201. It doesn't list 203.
It should list both.
Yeah, and it doesn't have an address actually on the agenda, so we're covered there. We could clean up with a motion if we had to anyway. Rick, what do you think the feasibility would be to get legal involved and update the contract? Do you think we could get a first choice buyback clause written into the contract?
Yeah.
I wish Chris was still on. He would say how well that works in real estate, or you're able to defend it if they try to go outside of it. Like, it's a long-lasting agreement and it's made at the time of sale, but I know you can do that with family land and other stuff, and they can't break it. Sometimes you have to set up a trust to do that and other stuff, but that would make me feel more comfortable. Like,
Me too.
I don't have a big qualm. Like, I don't like the idea of breaking up property, but it's a small piece right on the edge. The other side of the street's not really valuable enough to use for anything. But I don't like the idea that if the Senior Citizen Center does decide to move, they could sell it to whoever they want, whatever they want.
Whatever.
That makes me more uncomfortable. So if we could get a clause put in the contract that if they sell it, the district gets first buyback option, period. Obviously, it'd probably be at fair market value. That's fine.
At least it gives us the option.
At least,
right.
Yeah, I'd love for this sale. I wish we could get more right now. Like, I'd rather sell it for 300 and have a buyback clause that says we'll pay 10% less than fair market value whenever that time, if it ever comes up. But we also have to be a good community partner and be fair. But yeah. And you've already negotiated price and felt comfortable and felt like that's what was reasonable to ask for.
Yes, sir.
Rick, do you feel if that insertion is made that will hold it up at all?
Dan, what do you think? You're the one that had the last set of conversations with them.
I really don't think that will hinder anything. I think it'll go ahead and still move as planned.
Because all it really is the option. We just get the first option, and if we say no, we don't want it, then they move on.
Yeah,
right.
Then we just start negotiating.
I think our motion I think our motion needs to include that we have first right of refusal or buyback.
Yeah, there would be a motion to approve the sale with an amendment to the contract to include first option buyback or whatever just kind of keep it general. They can clean up the language, but yeah, it'd be contingent on the contract being changed to reflect that and agreed upon by both parties, of course.
I think it's a good idea.
Zach, did you just make that motion?
No, we're just talking through it. I can. How does everybody feel now? I mean, we
Better.
I
Yeah,
like
I think
that.
that's a better. Yep.
All right. All right. Well, I would make a motion on item 11 that we approve a bid and sale of the land and building hosting the Chickasha Nutrition Center with an amendment to the contract to include first option buyback for the Chickasha School District in the event the building property were to be sold in the future.
A second, Clift.
Okay. Any other discussion, team?
Hold on, Zach, did your wording include Chickasha the Nutrition Center and Senior Citizens Building? Both of those addresses?
It's called the item 11. The contract includes both, so I didn't spell out both, but it's all
As long as that's fine, as it's on the contract. I'm good.
contract that goes with item 11.
Right.
Yep. Okay. All right, Rochelle, call roll, please.
McGill,
Yes.
Morse,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Gertis,
Yes.
Clift,
Yes.
Good job on that one, team. Good discussion. I think best option right now.
It was painful.
Yeah, I know, but it's just, you never want to let go of land, but I think that
I agree.
But I feel good being a community partner. I like that we're still working with them. And so I feel being as a steward of the district, I feel that was a very cooperative move to work together.
Yeah. Okay. Item 12, discussion of vote to approve or not approve emergency roof repair authorization. Rick, Dan?
So Chris kind of alluded to this earlier. We had a hailstorm that came through the area back on April the 28th. Dan has been working with Chris and the adjuster coming out here and just going over roof by roof. And part of this was, and they're looking at the activity center. They asked us about moving forward with it as an emergency clause to repair or replace the roof on the activity center. So we started the process. Dan has been working with them on this. Dan, step in here anytime that I put my foot in my mouth and trip us up here. We started the process. Chris has been involved in this all the way through. The adjuster has approved the first step. We are now waiting on
reinsure.
Yep. So reinsure is part of the process. They have to approve it. Once they approve it, and if they approve it the way the adjusters has approved it, folks, we get a brand new roof on the activity center.
Yay.
And so this is just simply working through the process, doing it straight, legit. They came out here, they've been looking at everything. Dan's done a great job of communicating them with them and just getting feedback and giving input. So basically what they've told us is that because this would be handled as an emergency clause, we need to go ahead and be able to give us permission for what we would replace the roof at the value of what the insurance determines. Everything would be done by them. They're just the ones doing the emergency clause, but they would want to do the roof, have it replaced and repaired immediately. And so once they make a determination. So that's why we're asking for an emergency approval just for this one roof. It's only for the activity center. Simply because we want to fall in line with what they're doing. If we have an opportunity to have this as a claim and be able to repair that or replace that roof on the activity center, I want to jump on it.
Yeah.
And it's kind of a godsend type thing. And so we're working with them and we just want to make sure we're positioned in the event that this works out. I cannot promise you that it will work out that way. But in the event that it does, we want to be in the right position so we can do what we need to do for the activity center.
Okay.
This would just give Rick the authority to go ahead and hire a roofer and get the process started.
Yes, that's it. And only on the one roof.
Yeah. So we just done the motion.
Are the bids already in, Rick, or you accept, then you'll put it out there?
We would actually, since it's because it's emergency, there's a few different guidelines for emergency. You don't necessarily have to do the entire bidding process on it. You're working really a lot with your insurance company to get the roof repaired and or replaced in a very timely manner.
Okay.
So we would follow every rule, we'll follow every guideline, every law that there is. So we will be working closely with Chris Mosley and the adjuster through the entire process.
Okay. I just didn't know how much you could streamline this and get it rolling.
Yep. This will allow us to be pretty streamlined. And we'll keep you and everybody else informed as we move along the process. It's just, we're just trying to make sure we're positioned in the right place so that once they say, hey, it's good to go, we're good to go.
Sure.
So, but they might come back to us and say, too bad, so sad, and then I'll be sad.
We all will.
We all will.
Yeah.
Okay, I move we approve the emergency roof repair.
Do we need to spell out in there to authorize, yeah.
Rick, yes,
to-
I would
Yeah.
put it in there to authorize Rick to be the one to go ahead and hire a roofer and get all that going.
Yeah, so
I move to allow Mr. Crosland to award a contract to do emergency roof repair.
up
Second,
to the
Alan.
amount covered by insurance. Is I think what do we have, Rochelle? What do you have written down for that one?
Authorization for Rick to approve the repair of the roof for the amount covered by the insurance.
Okay, that will work. Thank you,
Second,
Christy.
Alan.
Okay. All right, any other questions? Okay, call roll, please.
McGill,
Yes.
Morris,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Gertis,
Yes.
Clift,
Yes.
All right. Item 13, discussion of vote to approve or not approve contract for Seth Meyer.
We have
Jennifer?
a slight adjustment to make to this contract amount. This contract's going to be for all of his consulting work that he did prior to his first day with us, which would have been from the date that you approved his employment back through Friday of last week, which would have been June the 14th, 12th. So that would be in the amount of $2,500 for his consulting. And I will tell you, Seth has been fantastic to work with us and really be researching and getting us prepared as we start working on distance learning. And he's worked nights, he's worked weekends, he's taken time off from when he was with Moore and came out here with us. He's conducted interviews. And so I really want to make sure that we compensate him for his time because he did give up time with Moore, and which also impacts his payment and his earnings from there. The other amount that you see there would have been a contract all the way through the end of this month. He started on regular salary and payroll yesterday. And so that will just be handled through his contract and all that. So that's the difference there. It's $2,500 as a consulting fee from the time that he was named and approved through Friday of last week.
All right. Any questions, anyone?
No.
Okay.
Thank you,
entertain-
Seth.
Yeah, thanks, Seth. We do appreciate it, and glad to have you on full time now in the Office of Excellence. Super excited. Thanks for everything you've done. We look forward to the journey from here on out.
My new boss got me a really cool purple wreath too that's hanging on the door. So if you have time, you should stop by and see how beautiful it is.
Check it out. All right, motion.
So moved.
Second, Alan.
Okay, call roll, please.
McGill,
Yes.
Morris,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Gertis,
Yes.
Clift,
Yes.
All right, item 14, consent agenda. We have two items: renewal of lease purchase agreement for fiscal year 21 and the renewal of workers' comp contract with Zenith. Okay.
Good. Well, you'll notice on this contract, there is also a rate increase with Zenith. I have talked with Mark because our actual rating went down, and they're still saying there's an increase because of this year's claims. They went out to check and get other quotes for insurance, and they're still the cheapest.
Okay.
Is every district seeing increase across the board?
You know, that wasn't something that came up when I talked to Mark, because that was one of the questions. So I don't know if he wasn't aware of that. But what he said, the reason for the increase was because of our current year claims, which really the actual what they paid out on isn't that high. It's just the ones that are still open. So, you know, that may or may not be high. To me, I wasn't real happy with that, but that's the explanation I got.
Yeah. Well, when you put it in the context of he went ahead and shopped and they still come back as the lowest cost option, even though they've gone up on us since last year. I mean, there's not many driving force to move. Yeah.
I was just curious, was that a standard thing that everyone is seeing? Because some of, the climate is now changing. So I just didn't know if they were kind of, hedging what they were going to anticipate. That was more of just an industry wide if we knew what was going on.
Yeah, I would suspect there's got to be some of that, Lori. Or at least it would make sense because there's a lot of fraudulent claims and stuff for unemployment, all that stuff going on, and they have to dig into all those and handle them all. And
well, I appreciate the shopping around and your diligence, Jennifer, and looking at it.
Yeah.
And Mark's going into it too and trying to do the best we can. Thank you.
One of the things we want to do this next year is really work on our messaging about workers' comp and safety in the workplace. And so that's going to become part of our principal meetings. We want it to become part of our staff meetings. We want to have a kind of a monthly type safety, I don't know, I won't call it a memo, but flyer, newsletter, something out there, just keeping in the forefront as people do things in classrooms and in office spaces and wherever across the district about how to be safe. And we just want to work on that messaging, and we think that could have a positive impact, and hopefully we'll have a positive impact in the way of being able to lower some of these rates moving forward. So
awesome.
On the item A, the lease stuff, I know I sent you a question, Jennifer. I sent it late though, some just before the meeting, which I assume you might not get a chance to see it. Just so my knowledge, Rick, to Pitney Bowes, what does that lease cover?
That is our postage.
Okay.
And the postage machine.
Okay. All right. All right. And then the facility lease that has to do with the bonds that were sold in 2010. How does that work?
Still part of what you approved this year. So they'll sell bonds and we'll pay them back within 2 years. And then you sell a bond and you pay it back within 2 years.
It's not really a lease like a normal property. That's just part of the whole bond process and how they capture it.
yes.
That's correct.
That's what I assumed, but I wanted to make sure. It's not something I'd dealt with before, so I wanted to ask. Okay. My team of ladies, what do you got? Anything? Nope. All right.
No, I'm good. I appreciate the attention to safety coming up, and whatever, again, the stuff that's facilities and everything that's already done, we need to get it rolling.
Okay.
Well, and it doesn't help that we're going into the year with more than one, probably more than two, maybe more than three cases open.
Yeah.
So that's not going to help our premium either. So if once we get a grip on that and get those cases closed, I think it'll help tremendously.
Yeah.
Do we
Okay.
know, like, are we close to getting them closed or? We don't know.
That part, Jennifer might know where we're at closer on some of those. I think they're all in different stages. But
Yeah, I think they're working on them. It's really not like one claim is the same person. So two different claims on the same person. So I think they're working on it. They've been seeing the doctor and stuff. So I don't know how long it'll take before they close.
Okay. All right. Entertain a motion to approve consent agenda item 14.
So moved.
moved. Whatever. Second. Cliff.
Christy and Alan, whatever way you want to write them down. Okay, call roll, please.
McGill,
Yes.
Morris,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Curtis,
Yes.
Clift.
Yes.
All right. Well, that takes us to item 15, motion to adjourn.
So
Well, would
moved.
one of the team of ladies like to make that motion?
I don't know, they might.
Had to go to work.
There's a team of ladies. Is that not true?
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Curtis,
I second it.
Who made the motion? I'm sorry.
Alan.
And Curtis seconded, correct?
Sure.
That'll work. Carrie, you do second that, right?
I do.
Okay, it's official.
Robin third.
Right. Call roll, please.
McGill,
Yes.
Morris,
Yes.
Allen,
Yes.
Curtis,
Yes.
Clift.
Yes.
Good work, team. I know it added Rick and Jennifer and Seth and Dan and Pam, the whole rest of the team. Had a lot more on there that came up to get taken care of than the original sale of bonds that it was going to be, but it was all stuff that needed to happen. We appreciate all y'all's hard work and getting prepared and getting us ready and to do some graduation for the students this week, which is going to be our seniors, going to be awesome, and then preparing for next year. So thank you.
Hey,
graduation is going to be a lot of fun.
Are you, Chris had said about the signature page for the insurance, are you gonna come by and sign that?
I emailed her back. I've got stuff this afternoon keeping me tied up. So if somebody can has a chance, it's not too much trouble to run it over to HSI. I can definitely get it signed, but I don't think I'll make it out of here before the office closes today.
I'm gonna bring it over today. With the other bond stuff, I'll bring to you also. I'll bring that with it.
Okay.
Thank you, folks. We appreciate it.
All right.
Thank
everybody.
you.
Thanks, Eric.
Hey, Jennifer.
You're welcome.
Kelly, did you say something?
Yes, would you give me a call on my cell, please?
Okay.